Turkey Day shoppers take a bite out of the Black Friday feast. Is it good news or bad news for the economy? This is Special Reports. Good evening, I'm Shannon Bremen for Brett Baer. The traditional pre-dawn Black Friday madness was a lot less crazy in many places this year. With more and more stores opening on Thanksgiving, the crush of shoppers hunting for never-seen-before-in-the-universe sale prices eased up considerably, but volume was still heavy, and with it, the usual problems. We have Fox team coverage. William Lajeunesse is in Long Beach, California, with how some union members tried to make shopping at one retailer a lot more difficult. But we began with Peter Ducey in Springfield, Virginia. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Shannon. Shopping stats from this Black Friday will make you dizzy, like news from Target that they sold 1,800 TVs a minute and 2,000 video games a minute for the first hour they were open last night. In a few places, though, it was more like Black and Blue Friday, as fist fights earned some shoppers rides in police cruisers. But the fact that some big box stores opened their doors yesterday while the turkey was still warm has some feeling left out.
I know we were looking for a TV and headphones. I know more of the bigger stores, they probably sold out of those pretty quick if you didn't get there at 12.
The president of Customer Growth Partners, Craig Johnson, says the net effect of a lot of earlier openings was a pull forward of sales that hollowed out shopping this morning. It cannibalized a lot of the early morning shopping that we'd see a few years ago. Stores were dead this morning at 7 a.m. But officials here at the one-month-old Springfield Town Center in Virginia say that making money isn't a race.
It's the tortoise and the hare again. We're here for the long haul. We're not just here for 20 minutes of deals. We're here for great value throughout the day. And the customers are here with a multitude of choices, not just one store.
Increased online activity today shows that some Black Friday shoppers stayed home, but this weekend's sales are expected to top 2013's with a projected $36.7 billion in all. Shannon.
Just more comfy at home on the couch in your PJs. All right, Peter, thanks for braving it for us. Of course, Black Friday shopping can be a full contact sport, as Peter mentioned. There were scattered reports of scuffles and some arrests. 2 women were taken into custody after a fight at a Kohl's in Southern California. But as we mentioned a moment ago, there was a little more elbow room in many places today because stores had already been open since Thursday. There was some extra Black Friday participation at the nation's largest retailer. Walmart shoppers were joined and, in some cases, harassed by workers protesting for higher wages. William Lajeunesse has that story from Long Beach, California tonight. Hello, William.
Well, Shannon, what do shoppers care more about? Low prices or the sometimes low wages of the sales staff inside? Well, union members protested across the United States using Walmart as their backdrop to argue for, number one, income equality and to campaign for a living wage.
If we don't get it, if we don't get it,
I want the public to understand how bad the low prices, what these low prices do to the economy, so that they'll either shop somewhere else or at least pay attention to what they're spending.
Shoppers on the busiest day of the year didn't seem to listen. Walmart says 22 million visited their stores as of Friday morning.
They were protesting outside, but it didn't really affect any of the business.
We were fasting.
But demonstrators hope Black Friday would drive home their point.
They're our, #1 retailer, and they have a lot of power in that, running that industry, and they need to start setting an example just like other companies.
we all strike because we have rights.
From Washington, D.C. to the West Coast, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union bussed in hundreds of their members to complain about Walmart wages.
They keep their employees in poverty, so other companies follow them. Target, Kmart, the grocery markets, they follow suit. So if you're barely making it, if Walmart can get away with it, so can we.
I have a house, a car,
great benefits. I'm really happy.
Walmart officials would not address the wage issue head on, but claim 75% of today's managers began as sales associates, and some 300,000 employees have been with the company 10 years or more.
I can tell you, Walmart has been good to me. Okay, I came here about a year ago, and I started off as a customer service cashier. Then I went to a sales associate in electronics, and then I became a manager within 6 months.
In most cities, protesters are prohibited by court order from entering Walmart. In Atlanta, some violated that and were removed by police. This was also very much a political rally. They collected signatures here for a ballot initiative for a minimum wage of $15 an hour in Los Angeles. Walmart issued us a statement, Shannon, saying that the crowd here was mostly union members and did not accurately represent the feelings of their 1.3 million employees. Back to you.
All right, it's always good to hear from both sides there. William, thank you. Today's stocks were mixed. The Dow gained a half point. The S&P 500 was down 5. NASDAQ gained 4. For the short week, the Dow was up about 1/5 of a percentage point. The S&P 500 gained 1/4. NASDAQ was up about 1 2/3. The lights are coming back on for many people who spent all or part of Thanksgiving in the dark. Winter storm-related power outages struck hundreds of thousands in the Northeast. New Hampshire was hit hardest with 200,000 in the dark. The number was down to 127,000 earlier today. About 31,000 remain without electricity in Maine, 8,000 in New York State, and 2,000 in New Jersey. Speaking of power, President Obama is threatening to use his to veto a bill extending many tax breaks for businesses and individuals. But what's unusual about this is that the Senate's top Democrat is on the other side of this argument. Here's White House correspondent Wendell Goler.
President Obama is threatening to veto a bipartisan compromise that would extend a number of tax cuts, and some analysts think his dispute with Republicans on immigration reform is at the heart of the problem. The Heritage Foundation's Stephen Moore feels it certainly contributed.
There's no question that the bad blood right now between the Republicans in Congress and the White House are adding to this butting of the heads on this tax bill.
The bill would make permanent tax breaks that Congress has been passing year to year, including a deduction for small business investments and one for state and local sales taxes, a tax break for NASCAR racetrack owners, and some tax breaks for charitable giving. But it does not extend the child tax credit for the working poor. And White House spokesman Josh Earnest suggested this week that's where it falls short.
The president believes that our economy is strongest when it's growing from the middle out. And an investment in significant unpaid for tax breaks for corporations without giving a tax break to middle-class families is not consistent with that philosophy at all.
House Speaker John Boehner had warned Mr. Obama his executive action on immigration would cause problems with Congress.
I believe that the president continues to act on his own. He is going to poison the well.
But the veto threat actually snubs Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, who agreed to the deal and who was already said to be frustrated at the White House over the Democrats' midterm election losses. A spokesman for Republican Mitch McConnell, who will take over for Reid as Majority Leader next year, said, quote, "This Democrat infighting is having negative consequences on American families' bottom line and slowing incentives for companies to start hiring again." Mr. Obama and congressional Republicans have tried to forge a tax deal before, but couldn't agree on what to do with the money. Stephen Moore feels the current impasse shows they need to keep trying.
This whole debate that we're having and this whole dispute really underscores the reason why we got to just blow up the tax system and start over.
The veto threat by Mr. Obama isn't unusual, but an actual veto would be. He's only issued 2 since taking office, not since James Monroe, as a 2-term president, actually issued fewer vetoes. Shannon?
Interesting. All right, Wendell Goler live tonight at the White House. Thank you. A bizarre story tonight about the unintended economic consequences of 2 highly controversial Obama administration actions. Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel on how Obamacare and immigration reform could combine to keep you from getting a job.
Congressional sources say companies are going to have a $3,000 incentive to hire those covered by President Obama's executive action. The immigrants are eligible for work permits, but they are not expected to qualify for Obamacare. That means companies that hire them won't have to pay an annual fine of up to $3,000 per worker if they don't offer insurance.
We have 10 million Americans who are unemployed looking for work. It doesn't do them any good to now have to compete with 5 million individuals who are being given work permits and being rewarded for being in the country illegally.
President Obama continues insisting his executive action is good for the economy and the immigrants will help grow it for everybody.
Some worry immigration will change the very fabric of who we are, or take our jobs, or stick it to middle-class families at a time when they already feel like they've gotten the raw deal for over a decade. I hear those concerns. But that's not what these steps would do.
This is clearly a bad deal for the American workers that compete with these illegal immigrants.
Krikorian says the Obamacare loophole is very attractive to businesses that have never offered health benefits before, particularly for employers where $3,000 would make a major difference.
Say a landscaper, small restaurant, that sort of thing. This can be a very valuable loophole because it gets them out of the requirement to offer health insurance, which is something they probably weren't doing before Obamacare.
Others speak with less certainty, recognizing Mr. Obama could potentially write another memo making this loophole go away. Critics say the best way to fix the problem is to get rid of Obamacare's mandate forcing companies to offer insurance.
This is just another example of why it's imploding and why the Republicans would be smart to pass legislation next year saying no more individual mandate, no more employer mandate, stop the nonsense.
A key Republican senator told me this is part of the problem with the president tackling complex issues by himself. There are unintended consequences with what he described as governing on the fly. Shannon?
Mike Emanuel, thank you. There is uncertainty tonight what the night will bring in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. There were no visible protests Thursday night and no arrests were reported. People started to clean up and repair efforts to areas struck by rioting following a grand jury's decision not to indict a white police officer for the death of an unarmed African-American man in August. Professional football star Ray Rice is once again eligible to play. Rice won his appeal today against an indefinite suspension by the NFL over a domestic violence incident. Rice, who was cut by the Baltimore Ravens, is now free to sign and play with any team immediately. Up next, President Obama has not forgotten his promise to close Guantanamo Bay Prison. We're going to tell you what's on the horizon. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 7 in Austin, Texas, where a gunman was shot and killed after going on a shooting spree downtown overnight. Investigators say the suspect attempted to set the Mexican consulate ablaze and fired more than 100 rounds at police headquarters, a federal courthouse, and other locations. No one else was injured. Fox 9 in the Twin Cities with the lighting of one of the most elaborate holiday displays in the region. Check it out. 82-year-old Gene Stoggerber has been working since September to put together everything by himself, all 70,000 lights. He's been doing it for nearly 2 decades. And this is a live look at Tampa from Fox 13. The big story there tonight, a pair of retired Marines working as Santa's elves. The men are making sure this year's Toys for Tots campaign gets a toy to every child who needs one. Last year, the effort helped 18,000 kids in Pinellas County. That is tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We will be right back.